Hello. Hey, I was pushing this back all day. Welcome. Just been thinking about everything in the social media frenzy and such, and yeah, just wanted to talk about these issues of the day in a casual kind of way. Didn't script too much, but I did think about the Screw Tape Letters, which I've been reading by C.S. Lewis, and the premise is a senior demon writing to his nephew who's learning how to be demonic. And it's pretty great. It's pretty great because just the language is wonderful. I'm going to read a little bit of it to you. But yeah, I'm excited. These have been going really well. I've been organizing my thoughts a lot around um, the work of Professor Hamamoto, Daryl Hamamoto, and Kirby Summers and Manny Grossman. I think it's really good to have people like that are looking at specific issues in our pretty recent history. They're digging back into the past, and um, Manny Grossman is working on what he calls his new true crime movement. And so I'm going to be breaking out a series that focuses on those issues specifically. Then I'm also going to be doing a lot of talks around books, and I surrounded myself with books. A lot of them are underneath the computer. Um, but listening through old talks of Professor Hamamoto's from the last year or so, because I just discovered him. It's only March 2022. But I discovered him just a week or two ago. And I'm really inspired by his call to action because I think that we do need to apply lessons from the past to the present, but it's hard to get context for history. And a lot of history, the way it's presented, it's really boring and it's hard to develop that emotional attachment to. And so I think, what you see playing out now in social media is very interesting because these folks have been doing this work for so long to maintain their power and control, and their ways are hidden in plain sight. So when we read a boring old history book, it's presented as this is how it was. Um, but it's hard to retain unless you have a specific memory or interest or context for the story. It's hard to suck a lot of people in. And so one of my favorite things to do is read fiction and get a context for a time period. And this book, William Penn Dubois, um, it's about Professor William Waterman Sherman left San Francisco on August 15th, 1883, in a balloon with the intention of flying across the Pacific Ocean. So uh, it's a really cool story. I've had this book for a long time, and I love finding my old kids' books because I hand wrote in them. So it's funny to see my own handwriting from when I was a kid. But this is copyrighted 1947, and I'm not sure when this edition was published. Interesting. renewed in 1975, but it doesn't have a date for when this was published. That always intrigues me. Um, the information you find reading the whatever you call it. This page. I always look to see, okay, when it was first written, when it was first published. So I'm going to do a series that talks about books in particular. But on these talks, I'll just tell you what books I'm reading, and maybe you can join me along when we further deep dive into some of these. But I want to relate some of my episodes to various books as well, by subject matter, and that's what Professor Hamamoto and others have encouraged me to do. So that's been really interesting. Also, Thomas Sheridan, because he writes about history in a different way. He talks about history in a way that I've never heard it presented before. So the old me might have scoffed and said, "You're wrong," but I don't know. I don't know. I'm finding out I know nothing. And that's really exciting because I have had inklings my whole life about these things, but I didn't know why. Um, so though I'm trying to overcome my making a mess and living in somewhat chaotic, home situation, it's like I'm finally figuring out, okay, why did I hoard all these books all these years? Why did I lug around these totes and boxes that I never was ready to deal with for years? And now I can see that mentally I have a lot more clarity a lot of days, and getting rid of that noise. Uh, Learning how to really make time for myself that I need, and that's just that's just been everything, because having my little cup of tea prepared, um, taking the initiative to organize my space and to care about it. And when you do work like that for yourself, that it is its own reward. That's what I'm going for. And I think we've lost a lot of our time for thinking, it just in general. Like, there is never any time to think. Or if you maybe you think too much about the noise that's out there. And so just remember to make sure that you breathe and you drink your water, you get your sustenance that you really need. I always have a hard time with the daylight savings thing. Um, it's a rough adjustment, even when you don't have to get up early. Um, so I'm recovering from my getting knocked on my ass by daylight savings. I could not sleep last night, so I slept most of today. I'm so grateful I was able to do that. But one reason I mentioned the 21 balloons and getting context for history through fiction, Professor Hamamoto mentioned that in one of the talks that by him that I listened to today. And so I'm just taking his call to action. I'm digging out my books, and as much as my book list continues to grow because I continue to do research and find new interesting teachers and presenters that are creating content that I think goes um, beyond the noise into the deep dive into the research realm, where it can be legitimized and not sensationalized topics, but discuss them and ways in which we can give our children context for the dangers that are out there, and reflecting upon all the moments that I, was probably putting myself at risk. Um, One of my most simple lessons that served me very well, once I discovered it, was that you can leave the room. You can always choose to leave the room. And I think that's important in family dynamics, because you can always take it out worse on the ones closest to you, because um, maybe our comfort level with them makes it easier for us to lash out. Maybe for others, they find it much easier to be calm and placid, placating, whatever, to the people around them, and then they react badly out in public. Some people, they are that way with everybody in their lives. Um, so I think that I've been kind of a volatile person in my past, and um, some of that comes with just passion and energy and personality, but I think it's something that we would do well to be mindful of, and that's part of this video project for me, is just learning how to settle myself and calm down and be reflective, because I do want to know what is going on, but I don't want it to consume me and morph me into some other kind of creature that I don't want to be. So I highly suggest you read C.S. Lewis, The Screwtape Letters. Just do a search for it for free and read it online. It's a pretty quick read. I've been slowly chewing and digesting it, but I found that I read a lot of it really fast, and I had to go back and reread because it's worth it. The language is just quite beautiful, and it's such an interesting premise. And even I'm going to scroll all the way up to the beginning, um, and read the intro. Um, but he just introduces it like, I don't even know where this came from. Um, it's like he was divinely inspired, and maybe that's what led C.S. Lewis to later in life actually claiming to be a Christian. I don't think let's see, I found a talk by him, or about him. Sorry, I have a lot of tabs open, but I think he was called The Reluctant Christian. I'm not sure if that was a documentary made about him. But anyway, forget it. I'm not going to read C.S. Lewis right now. We're going to do another show that's a deep dive on him. But yeah, I just wanted to thank you for checking these out, and I look forward to sharing more talks really soon in the future. I'm going to start scheduling them in advance and honoring those times. So if you want to participate in the live chats, otherwise, if you're interested in rewatching any of these other rambling episodes, please check them out so you can see kind of how it's evolving, and just see that I really am trying here, and appreciate your support. So be well, and we will talk in a few days, and hopefully we will read some C.S. Lewis Screwtape Letters together, and we'll talk about some of the reasons why I'm reading some of these other books on my list. So maybe you can join along and read those with me. Thank you. Have a great night.